Mayor, councillors, ladies and gentlemen, members of the city staff. As you will know, capital plan is an important foundation for setting out our municipal priorities for the years to come. It lays out our expectations and our finance needs that will allow for the city to meet the needs of its residents in the years ahead. It is an essential and efficient to the operations of the city over the longer term. And I would commend staff here today for the detailed plan they've presented to council. Of course, capital plans are subject to change as circumstances change. They have to be flexible to allow for things such as the unexpected largesse of one or more levels of senior government, and flexible enough to allow a response to things such as changing economic circumstances that create hardship for the city's residents. They also set the tone and the direction for civic spending over the 4 years covered and perhaps beyond. My comments today are on the composition of this plan that we see before us. I would like to note first on the expenditure side that despite a 26% overall increase from the last capital plan, and despite an increase in the renewal funding to address Vancouver's infrastructure deficit, we still have a significant deficit that has to be addressed. Yet this new 2023-2026 plan anticipates new amenities and infrastructure, additional housing and childcare, and significant climate action spending. Whereas most of us believe these to be laudable initiatives, they are not our core city services and are better dealt with by senior levels of government. We saw from your very own survey this morning in staff's notes that over 90% of people would like to see the provincial and federal governments step up to their responsibilities on housing. We also saw that 90% of the people were not necessarily in favor of adding more amenities that would, of course, cause more expenses over time for the city's residents. Does it make sense to continue down this path when our own house is not in order, continue to expand the scope and the spending template for civic government? On the revenue composition side of the capital plan, I would begin my comments by looking at the city of Hong Kong. And I'd like to refer you to an essay from the Carnegie Endowment from June 2011, titled Hong Kong's Land Policy by Alice Poon, who worked in property development in Hong Kong and also authored a book called Land and the Ruling Class in Hong Kong. While Hong Kong and Vancouver are not the same place, they do share quite a number of similarities. Both, unfortunately, are renowned for their high property prices. Hong Kong's are stratospheric and not something we should be aspiring to here in Vancouver. In Hong Kong, the government controls the supply of land and sells it to bidding developers. It charges a land premium on the site, depending on what the developer will be building. There are clear parallels here with our own Vancouver rezoning policies and DCLs and CACs. The two cities are also similar in their approach to civic budgeting, using this land base to raise money through sales, leases of government land premiums, and developer contributions, which, according to the essayist Ms. Poon, and I quote, "When coupled with an addiction to earmarking proceeds from land sales and lease modifications specifically for infrastructure investments, seems to have created a Gordian knot situation for the government." End quote. Between 1970 and 1996, land revenue in Hong Kong, a jurisdiction that also has the tools of corporate and personal taxes at its disposal, accounted for 33% of annual government budget revenue. Adding in taxes on property developers and mortgage portfolio profits, this number jumps to 45%. Interestingly, in the capital plan before us today, the very narrow development contributions in cash and in kind that we see in the plan account for about 45% of the overall number. Further, according to Ms. Poon's essay, Hong Kong's land revenue focus has been the chief contributor to creating a property market oligopolies, enabling a few real estate behemoths to dominate. Are we not in danger of crowding out the small players here in Vancouver by rezonings that favor those with deep pockets who can pay ever higher DCLs and build larger, more expensive concrete towers, such as those this council just approved in the Broadway plan? To quote again from the report by Ms. Poon, with its implications for Vancouver quite clear, I quote again, "Yet home buyers have been the ones shouldering the land cost burden, which is often referred to as a hidden tax because developers usually can pass it on to purchasers after skimming off profits." I can tell you from personal experience as a resident working in Hong Kong for many years that the low taxes and the low salaries taxes, personally, were no match for the hefty rents and property prices, which were by far and above more punitive than any taxes the government could levy on income. In Vancouver, we already have provincial and federal taxes.
We're
Vancouver
just
residents can hardly afford to pay for more because of city policies that actually fuel property price inflation.
We are